Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. On this episode of A Quick Shot of Romance, we are reviewing Rough and Tumble, The Men of Haven, Book 1 by Rhenna Morgan. And with me this evening reviewing is Leah. Hey Leah.
Hi Becky.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
We're recording this on Monday for an episode that comes out, on Tuesday. It's just been that.
It's been a Monday.
It has been a Monday for sure. So before we get into all of this, I do want to just say that we are trying really hard to make sure our quick shots of romance, we are picking books that are a little more accessible. We're not trying to do just brand new. We will still do brand new releases. Don't get me wrong. There are some new releases we got to talk about. But that being said, we are trying to pick books that are either in Kindle Unlimited or they are easily accessible in the average library. Although, as we've learned, not
Becky's
all
library
libraries
is awesome, and my library is not so much.
Yeah, not all libraries are created equal. But we here on Buzzing About Romance, we are adding some librarians to our crew of misfit romance readers. For lack of a better term for us.
It's kind of appropriate though.
It is kind of appropriate. So anyway, I want to make sure everybody is giving love to their libraries. They're important and they matter. So tonight's choice is actually available in my local library and was available on Hoopla. So I listened to the audio and you read, correct?
I did.
Okay, so then we'll get into all the specifics of that. Let's go. Synopsis from Goodreads.
Synopsis. Okay, so live hard, fuck harder, and follow only their own rules. Those are the cornerstones the 6 men of the Haven Brotherhood live and bleed by, refusing to conform to society's expectations, taking what they want, and always watching each other's backs. A self-made man with his fingers in a variety of successful businesses, Jace Kennedy lives for the challenge and he always gets what he wants. From the start, he sees Vivienne Moore's hidden wild side and knows she's his perfect match. If only he can break it free. He will have her, one way or another. Vivienne's determined to ditch the rough lifestyle she grew up in, even if that means hiding her true self behind a bland socialite veneer. Dragging her party-hound sister out of a club was not how she wanted to ring in the new year, but Viv knows the drill. Get in, get her sister, and get back to the safe, stable life she's built for herself as fast as humanly possible. But Viv's plans are derailed when she finds herself crashing into the club's clearly badass and dangerously sexy owner. Jace is everything Vivienne swore she never wanted, but the more time she spends with him, the more she starts to see that he loves just as fiercely as he fights. He can walk society's walk and talk society's talk, but when he wants something, he finds a way to get it. He's proud of who he is and where he came from, and he'll be damned if he lets Vivienne go before showing her the safest place of all is in the arms of a dangerous man.
So this book released February 20th, 2017, so it is 4 years old.
Yeah.
I can do the math. The tropes on this book are bad boy, the family you make, sexy. It's a billionaire romance. It also is slightly mafia.
It has mafia undertones.
Yes. This series, the guys in this series walk the line of bad boys with big hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I don't think they walk the line. They are bad boys with big hearts.
Well, but I mean,
they walk the line between legal and illegal.
Right. I mean, it's not full out mafia because they do have some legitimate business things. But they do some not so legal things too.
They dip their toes.
Right. So the steam level in this book I said was a steam level of 4. It is super sexy.
It is. And it's early sexy. There's no slow burn here.
No slow burn. Hot damn, we are in it in the beginning. The point of view is written in third person. I listened to the book, like I said in the beginning, on Hoopla, and it's read by Gary Furlong. And he reads the whole book himself, So even when it is third person Vivienne, you still have Gary reading it for you. So that
Does
took
that
a
throw
little.
you off?
No, actually, it didn't. He has a very nice voice, a very easy cadence to his voice. And I actually liked him a lot. Sometimes it does throw me off. We'll talk about it in another book. It kind of bugged me a little bit because Gary he does a female voice, but it doesn't sound ridiculous. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like he adapts, but doesn't make it obscene.
Yeah. And so you read this on Hoopla.
I did, yes.
But I do know it's available in our local library. There just was a wait.
There was a hold, and I needed it. So
you do. This is such a good book. Okay, so let's start with Jace. He is not what you expect: cowboy boots and jeans and.
Yeah, but he also has a law degree from UNLV, so that one I was not expecting at all when he talks about that. But he does not have a typical upbringing. Like, there were big things that happened in his life when he was younger, and I
don't think it spoils it to talk about it. His mother was a prostitute.
Yes.
And his best friend, his mother was a prostitute. They both lived in the same apartment complex. And his best friend is Axel, who you do meet in the story and eventually gets his own book. But they grew up very poor, and their mothers, were doing everything they could to make ends meet. So there is a little bit of like from the streets feel to the story. And he does have an incident in his young life that happened in protection of his mom. It wasn't like he was out looking for bad. He was trying to protect his mom. That kind of is what forces him to create the family you make, and to also kind of picks up the strays on the street.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, and because of his reputation of being kind of a bad boy and not necessarily on the legal side of up and up, he has to hide a lot of his businesses that he's investors in.
Because some of the investors don't want his name on stuff, and there's a politician who is like out to get him and is not a good person. But people are leery about having his name attached to their business or their product. So he kind of hides behind like shell corporations and like his friends.
Right. He's trying to go legit. He's trying to put his name on more things. He's part of a charity that helps give people kind of second chances in the world. But because of the conflict with this politician, that they have this deep-seated history against each other, it's not going his way. And Vivienne, so let's talk a little bit about Vivienne. She kind of gets caught up in that mess of that stuff.
She does. But I think that it works well in everybody's favor, because she is working for this charity because she had met the chairperson at an event that she did work on, and so she is helping out. And Jace makes comments to protect her and make sure that her business and her standing isn't affected. And so but I like the fact that when she finds out what he said, like she does not, like she is hurt by it in that moment, but she thinks about it and it's like, it's a logical thing that he did. Like, this is why he did it. And she goes and she talks to him about it. Like, she does not jump to conclusions about any of it. And I think in the long run, like, it worked out really well for all of them.
She's very smart. So let's talk about her personality a little bit, because she has a history herself coming into this situation. So currently she's an event planner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's an event planner. And she owns her own business. And it's doing okay, but she's still struggling because it's her. Like, she doesn't have any other family Their mom, she has a sister.
She has a sister who we meet like on page 1.
She's a hot mess of chaos.
That girl. Ugh.
But their mom left them when they were very little, or maybe not very little, but she pieced out.
No, I think they were like 6 and 8. I mean, they were young.
But
I don't think they were babies.
Pieced out.
Yeah, she just left.
And her dad was kind of a hot mess of chaos, and he got shot and died in a bar fight. And so she has a lot of, not issues, but she's
hang-ups.
Hang-ups.
They're just
That's
hang-ups.
A good way. Mm-hmm.
She's afraid to get involved with Jace because, her dad, she saw her dad. When the mom left, he spiraled out of control. He rode the motorcycles and went to the bar and drank all the time and didn't necessarily, hang around with good people. Got involved in some drugs and shady stuff like that. And it created issues, obviously.
Yeah, well, and after he died is kind of when she took on this persona where she needs control. Like, she wants control. She has her special room, her secret room that like has all of the bright of her life.
Very bohemian and free spirit.
But she keeps it behind a closed door. Like, she only allows herself to go in there for a little bit. Like, she doesn't go in there and hang out for a long time. Like, she's almost afraid to be that person. So she's so controlled in every aspect of her life. And like, she's dealing with her sister and the chaos that she's bringing into her life. And like, still dealing with the fact that like, that's how her dad died. And then she meets Jace and he's embroiled in this like nightclub. So she has this
with a drug
fear,
issue and
like she has
police
this fear
raids.
that he is going to be that type of person, which it's very valid. And she's not obnoxious about the fact that she is questioning him, and she's not obnoxious about the fact that she's questioning like who he really is.
No, I think all of her responses are natural. I do want to say before we get into, because I want to talk about the theory of Haven and what it is and everything. I do want to say real quick, this is book 1 in a series. And a lot of times when we get book 1 in a series, even though it's building its own separate relationship, that's not, each book is quote unquote standalone. Book 1 in the series, sometimes the author will spend a lot of time world building and introducing us to characters. And so you don't feel that you get a complete romance story in book 1 because you spend so much time learning the backstories and the history, and especially in this kind of situation where it's a large group of men that all have storied pasts and stuff like that. This reads really well. I don't feel like we got bogged down. That's the thing. I don't feel like we missed out on anything, because a huge part of Haven is Jace. So talking about why it exists and how it exists and all the little things that we can talk about in a little bit, like it's a huge part of him and his personality and his life and his upbringing. And so I feel like, yes, you get the world building and yes, you get that background stuff, but it's him at the same time. Like, yes, there are this group of friends, but he's almost like the cornerstone of it. He and Axel are the foundation of this group, and he's totally the leader. Axel is a little bit more laid back of the two of them, and Jace is like diving in head first, looks later. And the theory of Haven. Okay, so there's a couple cool things I really love about Haven. So Haven, as we start this story, I believe it is 6 men are a part of Haven. And they consider themselves family. The 2 moms are still a part of the family. They live on the family compound. They have family dinner once a week, and they have what they call their rallies. On family dinner night, they have a meeting of the brothers, and they're always willing to add in extra brothers. So there is kind of a character in this story that's an outlier that, I think he's going to he comes into the fold in the later books, and actually should be getting his story, I think, is Rhenna Morgan's next book is his story.
Oh, really?
Yes. So there's this really cool thing where they go to their rallies, and it's in their basement, and each brother brings a piece of furniture from their old life to put in the rally room, like a CO boardroom, but it has the old Formica table from the apartment that Jace and Axel grew up in.
Yeah.
You know, and there's the couch from Knox's, one of the other brothers, like his old apartment and stuff like that. And I just think that that's so cool. It's not so much you're joining us and forget about your past. It's you
this
now
is where we were. This is where we are.
Yeah. And now you have us all together. The symbol of Haven is a tree. And they all wear a dog tag necklace.
And one thing I thought was interesting, so like where the moms live in like the Haven compound itself, they have a compound or like a house that they have parties at and things like that. But the Haven house is completely separate. And the rule is they don't bring anybody but family to the Haven house. So it's like they'll have parties and people at this other like the compound, they called it. But if they're going to Haven, it's very, very like they basically have to get the okay from everybody. And so that was kind of a sticking point because Jace takes Viv without talking to anybody.
No, but he had, in his mind, he had staked his claim.
Yeah.
This was going to be his woman. And he just hadn't vocalized that very well to his brothers. I think they all had hints of it because he was being super protective and super weird. He had Axel hire her to start doing some events for the business that owns all the nightclubs and stuff that they own. Yeah. And, but he wasn't involved in that. And so they all kind of knew a little bit, but had never clearly come out and said, she is mine. She will be family.
Yes.
And then he puts the necklace on her as kind of a like, just so you know.
Yeah, it was very symbolic, which you don't notice it at like when it happens, but later on, like it becomes a bigger deal. It becomes a big deal, yeah.
Okay, the moms. The moms.
I love the moms.
I love them. And one of my favorite characters in this book series is Knox. There's this family dinner night. And it rotates who gets to pick dinner each night. And the one night that Vivienne is there, Knox's turn to pick. And he picks like cafeteria elementary school food, like chili mac or corn dogs or
but it's
pony
like
dogs.
Bad chili mac too. It's like he wants that cafeteria taste.
Yeah. And everybody is like, they're all mad at him. There were tater tots. It was so funny. It's just, and then they play Monopoly trying to like sell protection to each other. So funny.
Yeah, it's not your typical Monopoly game.
No, but for such a very serious, strong, almost dark romance, because these are a little darker with the mafia feel, and they're not drug addicts, but Vivienne's sister is struggling with drugs. With those feels of it, there were some really light, laugh out loud moments in this story. Mm-hmm. Okay, and something else, the dirty talk.
It was so dirty.
This book had such good dirty talk.
It had really good dirty talk, and you don't have to wait for it. Like there's he speaks to her, and it's like right off the bat.
It was so yummy, so good. Okay, so let's get to our questions.
Okay,
did you like this book?
I did like this book, and now, thank you. By the way,
You're
have
welcome.
to read the rest of them.
I recommend this series all the time. This and Rhenna Morgan's Nola Knight series, which is kind of a spinoff from this series. I love them. I love these books. It's the whole world, honestly. It's all the different characters. They come from very different backgrounds. And when you get to the next book, the guy's a doctor. His family's from Brazil. Like, it's a very interesting past story. It's not necessarily typical past stories. So I really love it. And these are bad boys with big hearts. And I got a thing for that. I like that. So who would typically like this book?
Anyone that likes a story about a maid family, because this is a group of friends who are truly like, they are family in every sense of the word. It's not very dark or angsty, but it has those elements mixed in, and they mix really well, I thought.
Yeah. You don't walk away going, oh my God, that book was so much angst. What did I read? Like, it makes sense in the story. It helps with the development of the relationship and the characters, and it works.
Well, and it's not as much angst like between Vivienne and Jace. Like, there's a little bit because
it's her sister.
It's the sister and that stupid
politician. Yeah. It is a steamier romance. So, and it's not super dark. You did say that, but it does walk this line of what is good, what is bad, the bad boy, the good heart.
Yeah.
So if you like those kinds of stories, this is good. If you liked Bad Motherfucker from Jacinda Wilder, this story would be right on par. Even May Harden, her dirtier talking romances, you would feel very comfortable reading this kind of book. So would you recommend this book, Leah?
I absolutely would recommend this book. And I think after I read it and you and I talked, I did recommend it to people because people need to read these. They need to read these.
They're really good. It's hard. It is hard with this series because these books are published under Harlequin. And as we have learned, to buy their books, a lot of these are mass published. So you can pick them up at your grocery store for $6.99. But a lot of these books, to buy the ebook, is almost as expensive as buying the mass published book. You know, it's an $8.99 ebook. And then it becomes pricey, and because there are 5 in this book, 3 in the Nolan Knights, and now she has 2 more planned to come back to Mena Haven. I mean, that's an investment in a series.
It adds up, yeah.
So I highly recommend you check out your library or check with your friends. If they own them on their Kindle, it might be one that you can loan out. I'm not 100% sure about that. So
I don't know.
Anyway, that's it for this quick shot of romance, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at buzzingaboutromance or on Twitter at buzzingromance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.